Hi everybody. Something that we always wanted to do when we first started Low Carb USA was teach people how to do this lifestyle. I'm getting ready to do a mashed cauliflower recipe. Now I've done it a few different ways over the years, and sometimes it tastes like mashed potatoes because I've added like sour cream to it. One of the other reasons why we haven't necessarily done recipes is I always do something a little different. So one thing I've learned from Christy Sullivan, when she did something a couple of weeks ago, her cooking 10 days with keto with her, was show options. It doesn't have to be a recipe that follow like this, right? You use the things you like, you use the things you have on hand. We're in quarantine, stay at home, and this different time during the pandemic, ingredients aren't always available. So one of the things that I've adjusted to doing today is baking a fresh head of cauliflower, which I don't always do. Over the last few years, we've gotten really used to using frozen vegetables for most of our cooking, cauliflower especially. Usually just heat it up in the microwave. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes, a couple minutes longer depending on how soft you want it. But I haven't been able to find regular frozen cauliflower. I've been able to find riced cauliflower mostly, and everything's more expensive in the grocery stores these days, which is really frustrating to all of us. We don't have disposable income. We've never had disposable incomes as doing Low Carb USA. So we're always looking for a deal on groceries, and we want to make things spread out. So let me show you. I've just quickly put, just to make it easier to do cauliflower, I just do a whole head right straight in the oven. I've covered it with a little bit of water in the pan and covered it with a foil cover. I'm just going to grab, I forgot to grab my pot holders to show you. I'll just take this lid off. I've got it on 400 for an hour, but that's a bit of an estimate for myself. I don't know exactly if you look it up. If I looked it up, there'd probably be a recommendation. But I'm going to do, actually I've got it on 400 for 90 minutes. So the whole head, it broke up a little bit. You can do it covered with a little bit of water on the bottom to kind of steam it, and then you can take it off and you can brown it. There's different ways, if you're just doing cauliflower, that you can actually salt it and spice it. I've seen, and I've done in the past, I've done a curried cauliflower, put turmeric, paprika, salt, pepper, curry, anything that you like. You could do an Italian kind of cauliflower with oregano and Italian spices, whatever flavors that you have to go with the meat dish that you want to have it with. I was just thinking to do it plain today. I forgot to salt it, so I'll probably take it out halfway through, salt it, or I might just leave it because I'm used to salting it after. So we're going to let that cook for another 90 minutes or so, check the softness. If it still needs to be done a little bit more, I'll put it back in for another half an hour or so. We've got about 90 minutes before we're going to put the tri-tip in. So we'd like to just do things that are easy. Leave it sit, it's done, microwave or oven. You don't have to do a lot of preparation. So I'm going to cover it back up, and we'll come back and I'll show you how to mash it up, what we use, and the things we like to put into it. See you then. Alright, so I just went out for a quick walk, multitasking while cauliflower has been cooking. We reached 90 minutes. I took the cover off of the last part, and it's actually just browning. So you can see roasted cauliflower has a little different taste than regular cauliflower. It's fun to do basic stuff like this. It's surprising how many people haven't tried new things or haven't gotten used to cooking in the kitchen. So this would be good for people who haven't gotten used to cooking for themselves with it's not out of a box. So just basic cauliflower. I had it covered for 90 minutes, full head, with a little bit of water inside. It's actually just burned off, so I'm going to soak my pan so the brown isn't hard to clean. You can microwave your broccoli. This is going to give it a more roasted flavor if you're just eating it plain, or if you're making a cauliflower mash like we are. I'm going to set it aside while we prepare our tri-tip to cool, and then I'll come back and we'll blend it up and show you what we put in it and how we do that. There's a number of ways that you can do cauliflower mash, and the first recipes that my mom and I tried when Doug and I went low carb a number of years ago, we were trying to figure out what we were going to have for Thanksgiving. My mom and I, who doesn't normally do low carb things, but she's really keen to do things on the holidays with us, and I'll usually cook the sides and she does the meat, but this year we were doing it at her house, and we looked up the best cauliflower mash. I think it was one of the first recipes we did, and I skipped the step that she said was the most important to make it really fluffy and not too watery and a little runny. So I'm not going to do that today. I can tell you about it, where you actually take the cauliflower, put it into a towel, and squeeze as much water as you can out. It's actually really hard work. The towels that we have are, none of them the size that we needed, are very stretchy, so it was actually really hard. I would have Doug do it for me. But we skipped that step. This is just an extra step we found we didn't need. I actually uncovered this cauliflower, and I'll uncover it in the microwave if I do it. I've roasted it, and I'll uncover it in the microwave to let some of that steam and water out, instead of just steaming it and have it retain a lot of the water. So the drier your cauliflower is, the least amount of moisture it's going to have when you mash it. And today we're going to use a food processor. I've used a hand stick blender. You can even just mash it, with a regular masher that you would have used potatoes if you don't have any of the electrical appliances. This is just a cheap food processor. It actually has a nice little piece insert that you can use to almost as like a spatula for when you're mixing it. So I'll take that out, and we'll put pieces in. The other thing, we're going to use butter and whipped cream, and I'll use a little bit of sour cream. Forget why I tried it a couple years ago, maybe just because I had it, or maybe I saw a recipe, and it was interesting because using the sour cream, and I had really dried out cauliflower that year, which is what reminded me to talk about that, and it made it really fluffy, and the sour cream made my mashed cauliflower taste almost exactly like potatoes. When I brought it to, I think it was Christmas, my family was really surprised at how much it actually tasted like potatoes that year, but I've actually not been able to replicate it again. I've got the cauliflower. We measured, what did it say, Doug?
21
ounces, sorry. So we used to do 16 ounces and 16 ounces cauliflower and broccoli, and we would actually use a whole stick of butter. I'm going to use about 2/3 of this, or 3 tablespoons. About 3 tablespoons of heavy whipping cream. Like I said, we had said we were going to do recipe demonstration, because I always just kind of put stuff in. I don't always necessarily measure. It used to drive Doug insane because he'd want to track it all. And he'd say, "How much butter did you put in?" I said, "I don't know, I didn't measure it." He said, "You have to measure it." This is that extra step of throwing things in, tasting it, and seeing how it is. So for the purposes of telling you, you can put more or less depending on the texture you want, how much it fits into your day, if you're measuring macros, how much fat and carbs you have for the day. If you're measuring everything, you can adjust. It doesn't have to be exact, especially for this recipe. Baking has to be exact because it has to have the perfect texture, not too dry, not too wet. Cauliflower mash, usually you don't want it to be wetter than you prefer. So try this and see, and you can always use less or more, right? I'll probably do 3 tablespoons of the heavy whipping cream.
We normally used to use mayonnaise instead of cream.
Yes, I was going to talk about that. One of the very first other recipes that we did when we were talking pantry basics was we used to make our own mayonnaise. You can use a couple tablespoons of mayonnaise if you want it a little tangier. And anything else that we used to use, or you know what I wanted to do before we put that on. So this is a 1/4 teaspoon. I'll probably put 2 of these in, and I usually approximate in my recipes. Excuse me. And I think I've gotten used to over time how salty we like things. If we tend to not ever get it too salty, and we usually need to salt it more later. I didn't salt or spice this cauliflower at all when I was cooking it. So if you salted or spiced it before, while you're cooking it, you want to use less in the recipe. I normally put a little bit of garlic powder. And I've got some white pepper powder. This is a newer fine bottle, so I've got to go slow. But you can put anything in there you like. I've put parsley sometimes, depending on what dish you're going to be serving it with. A fish dish, I might put a little bit of basil as well. Salt, pepper, garlic, cream, sour cream, butter. Okay, we've got everything. So it doesn't take long, but depending on how fluffy and how done. But one thing I was talking about earlier was making sure that the cauliflower is cooked really well and soft, because you don't want cauliflower that's not cooked through, because it'll get chunky. And you don't want it's like lumpy mashed potatoes used to be. You don't want chunky cauliflower mash. So I was going to go like this. Okay. And we can just try the consistency and see if you like it. Sometimes a little bit more time through the food processor will make it a little more fluffy, a little less liquid, like we were talking about. This one is quite thin. You can try the squeezing the water out from the beginning, cooking it, maybe uncover it a little more time than I did. We don't mind it. This way we're going to have it on the side of our tri-tip. Sometimes if you have a sauce, maybe you might want it a little bit drier, but we don't mind. So those are just little things you can adjust. You can adjust a little less cream. And one thing that we used to use, like we were saying, was mayonnaise instead of the cream, or a little bit less cream and a little bit of mayonnaise. We've been using Chosen Foods mayonnaise, and I don't like to use too much of it. It's pretty expensive. I used to be able to find it at grocery outlet, bargain market, but they stopped carrying it. I use it sparingly because it's very expensive. Anyway, that's how we make cauliflower mash. I'm gonna put it in a serving bowl in a minute, and we'll show you what it looks like. Okay, so finished product, cauliflower mash. This is a whole head of cauliflower. So this is gonna last us at least a few meals. We'll probably get 2 or 3 out of the tri-tip, and this will be a great side. You can just put it in the fridge and use it throughout the week with your meals, or you can actually freeze it. It should come out fine out of the freezer if you want to do some meal prep. Okay, great. Thanks for joining us. Enjoy.